everybody. Welcome. This is our third episode of the podcast where we've got an action-packed episode ahead for you. We've got Taylor Walker from Spritzal. I'm going to let her talk about the origin story of her product and the evolution of her brand. It's a pretty cool story. We're getting bigger and better with every episode. We've got really great feedback so far and really looking forward to hearing this. So Taylor, take it away. Let's hear about how Spritzal got to where you are today and where you're headed next.
I tell you what, it's been a wild journey. A lot of ups and downs. We have our moments, but excellent timing. And right now we're in a season of being blessed. So I'm really thankful to be able to tell our story. So Spritzel cookie is based on my great grandmother's recipe. Her original is called a Spritz cookie. It's a Swedish Christmas cookie. Usually around the holidays, we would give it out for friends and family growing up. And my mom and I worked together. She started the brand as just like a farmer's market thing, like just testing it out. Because around September, people would be like, hey, when do we get our cookies this year? They were like counting down from September onwards. So I left in 2014 to go into IT sales and I moved to Atlanta. My brother was out of the house. My mom was like, you know what? I need something to do. So I don't think she envisioned this though. I don't think this was a part of her plan. I think it was just going to be like this local little kind of thing. So she saw some success there. She got into some local stores in the South Shore area. And then she was doing it all residentially in our kitchen, which is crazy. And they were all hand pressed out of the cookie gun. So I was not a part of that journey, but I didn't last long in Atlanta. I moved home a year later after crying to her one day on the phone. I was like, I hate my job. IT sales is not my thing. I like sales, but that all just felt like really over my head. And I didn't like living in Atlanta. I grew up 5 minutes from the water here in Boston and being landlocked and being super hot. It was not the vibe for me. So I quit and I packed up my car my whole life and I drove home. And then, like a week later, I was at it with her. And by that point, she had moved to the Commonwealth Kitchen in Boston, which is a shared, commercial kitchen that helps startups kind of see what's going on with their product and how to develop it. And they have some great relationships with the local Whole Foods foraging. So she got to pitch for the ink block when it was opening in Boston. And she got into that. And so we were in a handful, and that's when you had to go to each door of Whole Foods in the area and pitch it to the bake. We were a bakery item at the time, so I packed up sample bags and I would go around to the Whole Foods and expand. We got into Hingham and I think Dedham and Ink Block, and then Roach Brothers approached us. And we were getting to the point where we couldn't do it out of that kitchen anymore. So my dad, who's a contractor, built our commercial kitchen, which is in Rockland. Since sold all the equipment, it's still my office to this day, which is kind of crazy. Saw so many cookies go through there, and we would get up so early in the morning, cranky, tired, doing the farmers markets, doing demos in stores, baking every product, every single cookie that went on the shelf went through there. And then Roach Brothers wanted to expand us outside of their brothers market, and we just couldn't do it all of ourselves. We couldn't do a pallet in a week if we tried. So we decided, I guess we're kind of attempting this. And we, in 2019, rebranded our product a little bit to a more fun, vibrant pink. We looked at our competitors in the space, downsized our ounce weight, because we were at like 9 ounces and a retail of like $8.99 in a bakery section. And it kind of went from there. And then COVID hit, unfortunately. We had just done the Fancy Food Show in New York City, and Publix approached us about, initially we had a cute little box cookie, and they liked that. And then, as the story goes, a new buyer takes over the desk. You're trying to get the sale to keep going to fruition. And in bakery, it's rotational. It's not an everyday item. So then they wanted us to develop a clamshell of that same product, we had then since gone to half-ounce cookies. It was about 6 ounces, $5.99, $6.99 retail, just depending on the customer. So, and we had to move really quickly on the clamshell too. So we went to that, and got into Publix. We got into some Giant, Stop and Shop. Everything is rotational, though it wasn't an everyday item, and we were coming up against buyers wanting private label in that area. And our whole focus is we're a clean label, minimal ingredient, just traditional, but fun shortbread variety. And the customer is looking for that kind of product, but not necessarily in the bakery. They're always just, kind of going there for the cakes and the cupcakes and things like that. So we were hitting a wall. And in 2022, I almost quit my whole life in this. I was like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. I was so mentally drained. My mom, same thing. But we saw a big pivot since post COVID for like that wanting the on the go, the snackability, the easy tear, which is what we have now with the seal, and bite sized cookies. So we're like, all right, last ditch effort. Let's see what we can do. And we turned that package around from November 2022 to launching that product line in March of 2023, which I'm sure other brand owners can attest to. That was a very short window of time, but proved to be a good decision for us because now, we've grown our brand and our company pretty quickly in the past year and a half, almost 2 years now. So that's kind of where our journey took. It was a lot of research and listening to our customer, but always just maintaining that better for you kind of product that the customer was looking for. So we have some really fun flavors. We use real butter. We don't use seed oils. We're not processed. No artificial flavors, colors, preservatives, just clean, simple. And that's really what I think helps our brand stand out, especially, consumers these days are looking for that better for you option. And there's so much innovation going on in the better for you categories, and buyers are paying attention to that. The consumers are paying attention to that. And so we just stay true to our resources, and our customers respond really well.
It's what's really interesting to me is you had what seemed like the big break right early on before
Mm-hmm.
COVID. You got into Whole Foods, you got into Roche Brothers, you were doing well. But now in hindsight, that really wasn't the big break. The big break
No.
was years later,
Yeah.
when you were about ready to call it a day, and you pivoted to a radically different package, right? I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
packaging was a complete evolution. Is the recipe still grandma's
Still
recipe? So, like,
Still exact same thing scaled up,
yeah.
just kept it simple. It's a Swedish shortbread, so it has an egg and it has an extract and it has butter. It's not like what you would think of like Walker's shortbread, even though that's my last name. There's no relation. I always just think that's really funny. Um, but it's not the same. It's kind of buttery, melty. It's not really dry or dense like some of our competitors in the space are. And then we have the fun flavor variety. And I had a great meeting last week at a big retailer that I'm hoping will launch in soon. But they're like, I never would have thought of flavored shortbread. I'm like, well, I always grew up baking it, allergic to almonds. So I used to be able to eat it when it was like the McCormick's, but now we use really high quality pure almond extract. So can't have those two flavors, the almond chip and our almonds, but I can have our other four. And we're coming out with a new flavor soon. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, it's same recipe, just, you know, turned it around and made it something that a consumer was looking for. Um,
So looking back, now you've got great momentum, you've got some traction, you're in some national retailers, you'll be in more soon. If you knew then what you knew now, would you have gone straight to this packaging? Because it seems like the product itself was never bottlenecking you. It was just you
yeah.
eventually found the right package and the right department and all of that. But did you have to go through this iterative journey in order to get to where you got?
You
Or
know, I wish it didn't take as long to figure out. But I think that we had to have. I think that's part of our story and part of our journey and part of our consumer research, that helped us kind of pivot to this area. And, pre-COVID, there weren't really, when you walk down a main store cookie aisle, you'd see Chips Ahoy, you see all those, big players, but you wouldn't see smaller independent consumer brands like mine in that area. The better for you category wasn't really a thing. I think it took the timing, and we always use it as part of our pitch. Like when I would do demos in the store, it wasn't on our packaging at that point. Now it is, but I would always be like, yeah, just baked with just when's the last time you had a cookie with just 5 ingredients,
Yeah.
and customers would ears would perk up. They'd be like, I don't think I remember the last time I found something like that. So I think, doing that research in that way, being me in the grocery store, during the demos was really helpful. I wish our packaging, and people would tell us, you're a bakery item, you're a bakery item, you're not a center store.
Yeah.
And
They
it,
were wrong though.
yeah, apparently they were wrong.
Yeah.
So, and now we are in center store and mainstream retailers. And I think we needed the journey. I wish it maybe wasn't quite as long. My mom and I were both kind of gun shy, and we like to grow, slow and steady. We're 100% self-funded. We have no debt. We don't have any investors. We're a small team. Um, it's exhausting some days.
Excellent, right? No offense,
Yeah,
no offense to all of the investors out there,
yeah.
but the fact that you can just control your own destiny and make all of your own decisions
Yeah,
is, I'm sure, liberating.
it is. It's nice to have the network like LinkedIn and meeting other, people, through, common things that we have as founders, that we can bounce things off of each other. It's been super helpful with that. But yeah, it's kind of freeing. I mean, my mom and I, some days are better than other. The mother-daughter relationship comes into play here and there. Um, but she knows what she needs to do. I know what I need to do. And then at the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure we hit our deadlines, and that the product is what sells, and our story is secondary. But customers, I think, really love that kind of family-oriented story as well.
Yeah, well, I think you've nailed that on the packaging because first of all, I think the really smart thing is there's tons of attributes nowadays, and it's almost just table stakes.
Hmm.
Everybody can say five things about their product nowadays, but
Yep.
I think you're leading with the simplicity, right? The just six ingredients, that's right on the front of the package. For this is the almond chocolate chip, right? So it's like,
Yep.
as a consumer, I'm looking at it and I know what you're trying to say. It's simple, and simple tastes good, and there's six ingredients. Now I can turn it over. I can see a little bit on the back about your original family recipe. It's got the picture and all that. But what's making me pick it up in the first place is that I wanted something simple.
Hmm.
And it's a cookie that tastes good. It looks like a cookie. It tastes like a cookie. It doesn't have a bunch of gunk in it. And it's got kind of mass appeal, right? So I think the neat thing about it is you've always had that in the recipe,
Hmm.
but in the earlier iterations of the packaging design, it wasn't as clear to the customer exactly what that mission, that message was, right?
Yeah.
And now it's crystal clear so that you can be on shelf at all sorts of retailers across the country and different consumers are going to resonate with it. It could be with a really foodie consumer that wants something really elevated, which it is, but it also can have mass appeal too, which I think is
Hmm.
really smart. All
Yeah.
right, so where can we're almost out of time because our analog timekeeping device is just about empty. So the podcast in 15 minutes, we've explained your story, where you came from. Where can people buy Spritzel cookies right now and in the near future?
So right now, we're in Costco in the Bay Area with our Ula Lemon shortbread, and we also have on our website and our socials, and even on the back, there's a QR code you can scan. We're doing a BOGO on that. We're in Kroger's. We're in 1,200 Kroger locations. On our website, there's a store locator, so you can go. It'll geotag where you can find us. And we're also in, where are we? Piggly Wiggly in the Carolinas. We're about to launch in Food Lion. I believe they are on shelf. We haven't announced that on our socials yet, though. And then we're also in Roach Brothers in Massachusetts. And then we're about to launch with Safeway in California. And that is our second kind of, mainstream retail expansion. Oh, and Hy-Vee. Sorry. We're in the Midwest and Hy-Vee as well. Um, Again, it's hard to keep track. We're in about 3,000 doors, and we were in 200 early last year,
Right.
so
So you've had
a lot going on.
an overnight success 6 years into the journey, right? So it took a while, but you
10 years.
10 years into the journey. So, I think there's a lesson in there for a lot of founders, right? And sometimes you never know when it's right around the corner. But it seems like you guys are really on fire. We're really excited at Pod to be working with you all. I think it's a perfect match on our end too.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
great. Really glad
Yeah.
to be able to hear your story. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you for sharing it. I appreciate it.
See you.
Bye-bye.